Alright, this is Curtis Spivey with Team ABU Games with another bargain budget build. This time we've got mono black control. So really want to go and be controlling on a budget? I got it put together for you here, running right around that $50 mark. First thing, let's start with the creatures. We have got 18 of them in this list, and one that's a hero would be the Dusk Legion Zealot. This doesn't look like much, one colorless and a black. It's a vampire soldier. When Dusk Legion Zealot enters the battlefield, you draw a card and lose 1 life. It's a 1/1 creature. Doesn't seem like it's going to do a ton, but with the synergies in our deck, this thing is irreplaceable from blocking or being able to sacrifice. This deck really gave me some good insight how you could make a budget, how to be controlling, after watching some sweet goldfish videos and really putting this on the map, so I've been running through some leagues and hope you enjoyed as well. The next creature that we have is 2 Dreadshade. This is a personal pet card. This guy is 3 black mana, so hard to cast if you're not in mono black. 3/3. Shade. For 1 black, Dreadshade gets +1/+1 until end of turn. You can pump this thing to the moon. It blocks well. It's a 3/3. It can really get through that damage when you have a ton of mana, which we're going to create. It's a wonderful thing to have. Next one is kind of a cool budget option to be able to kill planeswalkers, creatures, or make your opponent discard a card with Plaguecrafter. 2 colorless and 1 black, 3/2. When Plaguecrafter enters the battlefield, each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. Each player who can't discards a card. So you can keep this on the board just straight from turn 2 to 3 when you have a Dusk Legion Zealot that you can sacrifice, or you can just sacrifice this. It's so awesome when you do it, just to make sure you take care of if your opponent only has a planeswalker or a creature. Really good at pushing through and just making sure that board's empty. A lot of this deck has tons of 2-for-1s, and even with being on a budget, we can make sure we do that as well and have a bunch of cool insights and stuff that we change. Like the next one. We have 2 Josu Vess, the Lich Knight. This is 2 colorless and 2 black, legendary zombie knight. It's got a kicker of 5 colorless and a black. Now you'll hear that after I just said 4 mana and say, wait, my math says 10. Your math does say 10. It has menace though, and if you do kick it, which you don't have to, it's gonna create 8 2/2 black zombie knight creature tokens with menace. Even those token decks can't block through this. This is going to get you that late game where you can really just push through damage. That's why there's 2 of it, because it is legendary, but no shame in putting a 4 or 5 out. It does block a lot of what's in the format right now. Now, it wouldn't be a 4 of in mono black to be able to control unless you had everybody's favorite Chupacabra with a Ravenous Chupacabra, 2 colorless and 2 black. It's a beast horror, and when it enters the battlefield, destroy target creature an opponent controls, and it's a 2/2. Another 2-for-1 on a stick. This card really has proven itself. Doesn't get as good when your opponent is flooding the board with items, but will let you kill their big things. Can be one of the first things we sideboard in certain matchups. From there, we've kind of got some of my favorite big fatties to finish out and kind of end games, is we've got Demonlord Belzenlok. This is from Dominaria. It's 4 colorless and 2 black, legendary elder demon. It's flying trample, and when Demonlord Belzenlok enters the battlefield, exile a card from the top of your library until you exile a non-land, then you put that card in your hand. If the card's converted mana cost is 4 or greater, repeat this process, and it deals 1 damage to you for each card put in your hand this way. There is some opportunities to get more than 1 card, but most of the time you just want to get that 1 extra card that replaces itself. It's a 6/6, and here's the thing, since we can't afford to be putting whispers in our deck, we have to have some way to kill that guy. This is a 6/6 as well. It's got flample, one of my favorite words ever, flying trample. So, I mean, he's just here to help end that day. The next one that's always a fun tongue twister is Tetzimoc, Primal Death. This is 4 colorless and 2 black for a legendary elder dinosaur. You just will never see me not want to play with a dinosaur. Thing's got death touch, but a 6/6, don't know if that matters, but it's all the other abilities. For 1 black, reveal him, and he can put a prey counter on target creature. Activate this ability only during your turn. When you finally do cast him, you destroy each creature that your opponent controls with a prey counter on it. This is going to give you the ability to wipe the board. It's a full board wipe at a 6 mana cost, and really at that budget of only like being 75 cents to bring him in. He's such a good way to wrap the board and just finish out a game. So that's it for creatures on there. Let's go ahead and go over our spells that help us keep us in the game. We've got 2 Cast Down, and Cast Down, kind of an all-star now, 1 black, 1 colorless, instant, destroy target non-legendary creature. Simple as that, need to remove creatures. There are fast red decks, and even though we do have some good removal, we do need a little bit of life gain. Can't afford that Vraska's Contempt, so we're going to put in the early game with Moment of Craving with 1 colorless and a black instant. Target creature gets -2/-2 until end of turn, and you gain 2 life. Just there for those early games, can be one of the first things to take out versus other control decks, etc., but just needs to be there. We have some more removal. We've got Price of Fame. You're gonna see me play this one a lot. It does cost 4 mana, 3 colorless and a black. It's an instant, and it costs 2 colorless less to cast if it targets a legendary creature, destroy target creature, and then Surveil 2. You could play Murder in this spot, but that Surveil 2, I've noticed when you have a deck that does lack on the amount of card filtering that you have, you really want to have something like Surveil to put through. And just having 2 of this really does help the impact of your deck and just getting stuff through so you can find the cards you need. From here, we've got 1 Ritual of Soot in the main, really just been amazing for those early game creature removals you need. It's 2 colorless and 2 red, sorcery, destroy all creatures with converted mana cost 3 or less. I used to not have any in the main, but moved 1 to the main because right now you've just got all these decks that are trying to fill the board so wide. You need a way main deck just to remove that, whether it's going to be green-white tokens, or if you've got anything that you're running like Soul Tie that you see, you just got to make sure you kill these early game creatures. A lot of Explorer ones going out there, any variant of green-black X decks. This is just going to help you. From there, talk about needing more, kind of dig through your deck. We've got Discovery Dispersal. This card's just been an all-star and been put in so many decks. It's 1 colorless and then hybrid blue-black. It's got Surveil 2, so you can look at the top 2 cards and you put either one of those in the graveyard or both, and then you draw a card, so it helps you dig further or just set up the top of your deck. And then Dispersal is something that blue-black doesn't generally get. It has your opponent bounce from their play, so it has to be in play, highest permanent that they have casting cost, and then they discard a card. So if you have an enchantment you haven't been able to remove because it's cost too much, etc., this will still give you that ability, and the fact that it's an instant when the other side's a sorcery is such a big deal. And it does cost 3 colorless and a blue and a black, so you're probably not always playing it for the backside of this, but really Discovery is the big one, but it can't help. Now, we can't afford to put Karn in this deck because we're keeping it on a budget, but we want to keep some super awesome cards for these deck selections. So we've got one Azor's Gateway. This card is a really great, cool flip card from Ixalan block. It's a legendary artifact and costs 2 colorless. For 1 colorless and tap, draw a card, then exile a card from your hand. If cards with 5 or more different converted mana costs are exiled with Azor's Gateway, you gain 5 life and untap Azor's Gateway and transform it. I don't think you're probably going to transform it that often, and that's really not what we're going for, but if you do, it's Sanctum of the Sun, legendary land, and it adds X mana to any one color to your mana pool, where X is your life total. So if you're looking for those big X spells, or just to be able to pay that 10 mana so you can get Josu Vess, this is one way to do it. The other one that's really your card selection though, which is our Karn replacement, is the 3 treasure map. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this card. It's gonna let us scry, give us tokens, 2 colorless again, artifact, 1 colorless, tap it and scry 1, put a landmark counter on treasure map. If there are 3 or more, you're going to be able to transform it and put 3 colorless treasure tokens that you can sacrifice for 1 mana of any color, or when this flips over, you've got Treasure Cove, and it's not legendary, thank goodness, so you can have multiple. So you can tap this land at a colorless, or sacrifice a treasure to draw a card. This gives us the early game ability to make sure we're finding what we're needing and scrying stuff to the bottom, and just really gives us that power. From here, we've got our enchantments, where we've got 1 dead weight, kind of just, we don't have Fatal Push, gotta have something else, 1 black. It's an aura, and it gives -2/2 to a creature. From there, we've got 1 Arguel's Bloodfast. This card's another one of those flip cards that is 1 colorless and a black. It's a legendary enchantment, and pay 2 life, draw a card. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 5 or less life, you may transform it. So this card's been really good when you get to transform it too if you were beat down fast, because the back half of it's going to let you sacrifice a creature to gain some life, and it's called Temple of Elkut. Probably just butchered that one. That's all right for it, but legendary land. Adds a black, or sacrifice a creature and you gain life equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness. So super important card when those red decks are beating you down. First people to realize how powerful it is. Card is just great. It does so much work for you. And the last two enchantments before we get on the lands is 2 Eldest Reborn. Eldest Reborn is one of these sagas. These things have just outperformed, and this one in the mid-range wars, just unbelievable. After you play it, and it's 4 colorless, 1 black. Each opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. When you draw your card for the next turn, each opponent discards a card. Then the third part of the saga, put target creature or planeswalker from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. Just a mid-game destroyer. It's so awesome. From here are lands. We've got 25. We are a control deck. We've got 1 Arch of Orazca to keep drawn. If you do get the City's Blessing for 5 mana, you get to tap this thing and draw a card. And before that, it just still puts in a colorless mana. We have a lot of black symbols we need, but this is just so good at the late game of drawing. We've got 3 Cabal Stronghold. It's not a legendary land, but if for 3 colorless and you tap it, add 1 black for each basic swamp you control. Another one of these huge things so you can kick Josu Vess or cast our big stuff. And I know complicated 21 swamps. From here, we're going to move to the sideboard where we've got 4 Duress. Need to stop control decks. It's 1 black. It's been around forever. Target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land from it, and that player discards it. We've got 1 more Arguel's Blood Flask that we went over. Another Moment of Craving. This is kind of for different matchups. The Moment is going to be for the aggro. The Arguel is going to be for more controlling. You want to have more. Am always aware of us keep having more of these token strategies, so we do have 2 Plague Mares in here. That's 2 black and 1 colorless, and it can't be blocked by white creatures, and when Plague Mare enters the battlefield, creatures your opponent controls gets -1/-1. It's a 2/2. Really helps wrap the board, keep you in games. If you are in a slugfest and it's a mid-war, we've got 2 more Eldest Reborn. And if we, same thing there, we've got another Tetzimoc from earlier on this one, just another big dino. And kind of went over before, 2 more Discovery Dispersal, where you're really going against control decks. You can take out some of these early game removals if they're not gonna kill any creatures. And this will really just help you beat through everything. It's flexible, it's mono black. When you wanna control the board on a budget, you've got this. It's Curtis Spivey from Team ABU Games.